In that Jurassic world dominated by sky-blocking behemoths, all the laws of survival seemed to celebrate the immense and the heavy. Yet, right beneath the feet of giants weighing tens of tons, lived a tiny dinosaur the size of a chicken, as exquisitely crafted as a piece of nature's fine art. Its life under the blazing day sun was like an endless, high-speed race, its movements as agile as a flash of lightning. Tonight, by the gentle flicker of the hearth, let us immerse ourselves in this story, one you need not effort to remember, and step into the true lifetime of this ancient creature. The tiny friend we are about to meet is named Compsognathus, an ancient sprite that was always on the move, its nerves forever in a state of high excitement. During countless days driven by the instinct to survive, it had to rely on ceaseless, agile leaps and rapid weaving to exist within the narrow spaces between giants. That long-term neural tension, kept tight to avoid being trampled and to capture insects, made it a little dinosaur that barely knew the meaning of relaxation. Yet the story, in a quiet midnight drenched in moonlight, does the exact opposite, arranging the most unbelievable and exceptionally tender solace of its life. When the world's clamor completely recedes, a wisp of ancient nectar carrying a strange fragrance will quietly melt all its defenses, leading it into an unimaginable realm of peace. Now, the pace of the world has slowed down. Please try, alongside the Compsognathus, to cast off the anxieties born from the endless chase of the day, and begin this ancient journey toward the deepest sleep. In the late Jurassic Solnhofen archipelago of Europe, the daytime sun was fierce and generous, making the pristine sand of the lagoon beaches glisten softly. The air here was forever thick with the saltiness of seawater and the characteristic dry scent of volcanic ash, a refined world composed of countless tiny islands. Compsognathus was standing within the shadow of a massive tree fern leaf. Its chicken-sized body, honed by years of high-speed running, possessed muscle lines that were exceptionally compact and elastic. Its hind limbs were long and slender, its elongated tail slightly adjusting its balance in the air, and within its large, bright eyes flickered an unceasing alertness and tension. As one of the most diminutive predators on this ocean island, its life was a brutal race against time, leaving no room for a single moment of distraction. It had to weave through the rock-strewn intertidal zones when the sun was at its most intense, using incredibly agile movements to capture fleeing prehistoric dragonflies and lizards. Its nerves were pulled tight during the day like a fully drawn bowstring, each heartbeat accompanied by rapidly flowing blood, so much so that even the slightest rustle of grass would make it spring away instantly. The shadows cast by pterosaurs soaring high in the sky and the rolling tremors of the earth as a distant brachiosaurus walked squeezed the tiny soul of this little life at every single moment. During countless days, the word tranquility never crossed the mind of the Compsognathus. The pressure of survival forced it to become an untiring, unstoppable piece of fine machinery. It ran, leaped, and guarded unceasingly under the island's harsh sun, consuming its fragile energy in extreme haste and excitement, until the night began to use its broad palms to smooth away the scorched anxiety of this beach piece by piece. When that sun which brought endless clamor to the land finally sank beneath the deep western ocean horizon, the Jurassic lagoon coast welcomed its tenderest transformation. The evening breeze swept across the beach, bringing the coolness and moisture of the sea, slowly cooling the white sand that had been baked hot during the day. Those violent behemoths and noisy birds of the day submissively lay down under the solace of the night, letting their breath become heavy and slow. In this very moment, the entire coastline truly returned to silence, save for the highly regular sighs of the tide lapping against the rocks. Compsognathus slowly walked out from a thicket of bushes. Stripped of those fatal daytime threats and the piercing glare, its nerves, which had been tightly strung for an entire day, felt an unprecedented loosening. It no longer needed to sprint like lightning. Instead, it stepped upon the fine, cool sand, shifting its steps unhurriedly forward. The moonlight, like a thin veil of silver, tenderly draped over its dark, smooth skin, drawing its long shadow into an exceptionally soothing line across the beach. In this midnight devoid of any excess heat, its eyes, which usually stared wide in terror, now began to reveal a touch of the night's gentleness. It strolled along the shore, each step accompanied by the faint rustling of shifting sand, and that grounding sensation against its soles felt like a silent reward from nature. Its massive, complicated daytime world was condensed by the darkness into this refined beach belonging only to itself, no competition, no clamor, only boundless, tender companionship. Just as the Compsognathus puddled aimlessly along the coastline, an exceptionally peculiar fragrance, never smelled during the day, quietly drifted into its nostrils along the cool evening breeze. It was a sweet blend of ancient gymnosperm resin combined with the crisp, cool aroma characteristic of prehistoric flowers blooming at night. Drawn by this scent, Compsognathus slowly entered a silent, moonlit woodland. It saw that at the center of an immense, primeval flower that looked as if it were overflowing with moonlight, a few crystal-clear drops of nocturnal nectar rested quietly. Within this deeply tranquil atmosphere, driven by curiosity and instinct, the little dinosaur slowly leaned forward, using its pointed snout to gently lap a single drop of that richly fragrant ancient nectar. It possessed an unimaginably rich texture, carrying the warmth of the soil and the silence of the night, melting slowly across its tongue and traveling down its throat into its stomach. Almost the exact instant the nectar entered its belly, an unspeakable warmth and relief, like a hot spring, immediately spread from its abdomen out to its limbs and bones. It was a wondrous sensation never before experienced in its life. The bowstring pulled over tight by daytime survival pressures began to loosen and soften, strand by strand, under the saturation of this fragrance. Its heart rate began to slow down unbelievably, shifting from hundreds of beats per minute during the day to a steady, deep rhythm resembling waves lapping the shore. The aches and tightness accumulated over years within its skeletal joints melted away without a trace under the comfort of this nectar, like ice and snow beneath a hot sun. Compsognathus felt its body growing lighter, yet simultaneously heavier, a pure fatigue transforming, once accepted, into an exceptionally powerful and comfortable drowsiness. With that warm nectar continuing to spread through its body, the eyelids of the Compsognathus began to grow immensely heavy, and those eyes, usually the most alert, could now only manage to squint open a tiny crack. Its limbs turned soft as cotton, each lift requiring immense effort, and it knew it needed to find a place to sleep soundly, completely devoid of defenses. Just as it wobbled back to the edge of the beach, the moonlight, following the retreat of the cool tide, illuminated a giant, hollow seashell resting quietly on the sand. It was an ancient sea conch that had weathered 100 million years of tidal washing. Its shell displayed a warm, low-saturation pale amber hue, its exquisite spiral texture looking exceptionally restrained and primitive under the moon. The entrance of the conch shell was wide and smooth, its interior forming a deep, windproof, naturally hollow chamber polished as smooth as satin, radiating the crisp coolness and safety of the ocean's deepest core. For the chicken-sized Compsognathus desperately craving security at this moment, this giant shell was a perfect midnight harbor bestowed by the heavens. Yielding to its body's deepest instinct, it took clumsy steps that had completely slowed down, gliding with immense gentleness through the conch's entrance to curl piece by piece into that hard, warm exterior armor. The inner chamber of the shell was just large enough to cradle its diminutive, soft form. It tucked its long hind limbs close and submissively wrapped that tail, which was always used for balance during the day, tightly around its frame. It rested that tiny head, which carried the weariness of the entire day, tenderly against the polished inner wall of the shell. Within this small, windproof, completely isolated world, it felt an unprecedented, absolute safety. Absent the shadows in the sky and the tremors of the earth, this solid conch shell became a perfect armor, shutting out all danger and clamor from the external world. When Compsognathus fully settled down deep within the shell and closed those immensely heavy eyelids, a deeply luxurious miracle of auditory hypnosis slowly pulled open its curtain by its ears. The shell's refined, hollow structure acted like a natural acoustic filter, collecting all the sounds of the outside world and reflecting them in an endless echo inside the chamber. Within this square space belonging entirely to darkness and embrace, the sound of the outside tide and the rustling of the evening wind brushing the beach were infinitely magnified and drawn out, transforming into a deeply low, resonant hum. That sound bumped gently against the polished walls of the conch, producing a low, woo-woo melody like an ancient mother humming a cradle song in the deep night, devoid of a single scratch of noise, holding only pure, deep blue vibrations. Compsognathus kept its eyes closed, its sharp hearing no longer needed to guard against danger, completely immersed instead within this regular, soothing echo. Each rise and fall of the resonance inside the shell perfectly synchronized with its current slow, steady breathing. As it inhaled, the echo grew drawn out and profound, and as it exhaled, the echo turned faint and settled. Wrapped tenderly within this blanket of sound, this little dinosaur, usually the most unstoppable, completely let go of the final strand of Jurassic defense within its soul. It listened to the primeval whispers flowing inside the shell, letting its consciousness be carried by those looping spiral echoes down into a deeper, darker, and safer dream depth. The moonlight shone quietly upon the pale amber exterior of the shell, the sea water gently receded in the distance, and the little life inside the conch had already welcomed the deepest, sweetest slumber of its lifetime amidst ultimate serenity. 100 million years later, when we occasionally excavate the refined and complete skeletal fossil of the Compsognathus from the cold Jurassic strata, we can still feel that tranquil power piercing through time from its perfectly curled posture. That little dinosaur that once raced across the beach and fell into a peaceful dream within a conch shell has long since surrendered its refinement and gentleness back to the boundless river of time. In a posture that did the exact opposite of its world, it answered that ancient riddle of how life finds peace. No matter how fast your daytime pace or how tightly strung your nerves, within the dimension of the night, there will always be a perfect harbor belonging to you, waiting. Now, the story of Compsognathus has slowly drawn down its curtain, and that giant shell it once inhabited, along with the echoes from 100 million years ago flowing inside it, have all transformed into the safest, most comfortable sleep sanctuary around you. You no longer need to chase desperately like you did during the day, nor do you need to stress over unfinished tasks. On this comfortable bed, you are that exact Compsognathus that drank the nectar and cast off all defenses. Your bed is that cool, grounding sand beach, your blanket is that solid, warm conch shell, wrapping you snugly yet softly, bringing you ultimate peace. The sparks in the hearth have burned out, leaving only a faint, residual warmth guarding this night, like the most distant, healing echo deep within the shell. Please close your eyes securely and with peace of mind, letting your consciousness drift along with the tide flowing inside the conch into the depths of this ancient dreamscape, where there is no noise, only boundless embrace. Under the watch of the Compsognathus's serene dream, may you shed all heavy burdens and tightness, sinking into the deepest, sweetest sleep. Good night, and may you have a beautiful dream of ancient shores, of hollow conch shells, and of tender echoes.